There is a quiet power hidden inside your day, a power so simple that most people overlook it. It does not demand wealth, talent, or applause. It asks only for 3 hours, 3 hours of focused commitment, 3 hours where distractions fall silent and excuses lose their voice. What if I told you that those 3 hours, given faithfully today, could shape the confidence you carry for the rest of your life? Not borrowed confidence, not temporary courage, but the kind that stands steady in every room you enter. Today, we are not talking about overnight success. We are talking about disciplined devotion, the small, intentional investment that transforms doubt into certainty and hesitation into boldness. And it begins with 3 hours. Confidence is not inherited. It is built through consistent effort. No one is born standing tall in certainty. No one enters this world already fearless, already assured, already unshakable. What we see in others, that calm voice, that steady posture, that bold decision-making, is not magic. It is practice. It is repetition. It is the result of showing up again and again when it would have been easier to shrink back. Confidence is constructed in ordinary moments, in quiet rooms, in hours when no one is watching and applause is nowhere to be found. Every time you commit to learning instead of avoiding, you are laying a brick. Every time you practice your skill instead of postponing it, you are strengthening the foundation. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you are reinforcing the structure of who you are becoming. At first, the change feels invisible. Doubt may still whisper, fear may still visit. But beneath the surface, something powerful is forming. You are building evidence for yourself, evidence that you can try, evidence that you can improve, evidence that you do not quit when things feel uncomfortable. Confidence grows from proof, not empty affirmations, not wishful thinking, real proof created by consistent effort. When you have studied for hours, you walk into the room differently. When you have practiced daily, you perform differently. When you have prepared thoroughly, you speak differently. Your mind becomes calmer because it recognizes the work you have done. Your heart becomes steadier because it knows you did not leave your growth to chance. That inner voice shifts from "what if I fail" to "I have prepared for this." There will be days when progress feels slow, days when improvement seems invisible, days when effort feels heavy. But consistency does not demand perfection, it demands persistence. It asks you to return tomorrow. It asks you to show up again. It asks you to trust that small steps, repeated over time, create remarkable transformation. Just as a muscle strengthens through repeated resistance, your self-belief strengthens through repeated commitment. And one day, almost quietly, you will notice the difference. The task that once intimidated you will feel manageable. The conversation that once made you nervous will feel natural. The goal that once felt distant will feel reachable. Not because fear disappeared completely, but because your effort grew louder than your doubt. You trained your mind to recognize effort as strength. You trained your spirit to associate discipline with dignity. Confidence is not a sudden gift delivered to the lucky. It is earned in hours of focus, in moments of frustration, in choices made when comfort calls your name. It is the reward for staying committed when no one else sees the struggle. It is the steady flame that rises from consistent effort. So give yourself those hours, protect them, honor them, because with every focused action, you are shaping not just a skill, but your identity. And when your identity is built on effort, your confidence becomes unshakable. 3 focused hours daily can reshape your self-belief in ways you cannot immediately measure. It may not feel dramatic in the beginning. There may be no sudden breakthrough, no instant transformation. But something subtle begins to shift the moment you decide that those hours matter. When you sit down with intention, when you silence distraction and give your full attention to growth, you're sending a powerful message to yourself. I am worth this effort. Self-belief is fragile when it has no evidence to stand on. It trembles when it is built only on hope. But when you invest 3 focused hours each day into learning, practicing, improving, you begin to collect proof. Proof that you can concentrate, proof that you can endure difficulty, proof that you can keep promises to yourself, and every kept promise strengthens the relationship you have with your own potential. In those hours, you confront resistance, you meet confusion, you face the discomfort of not knowing enough. Yet instead of walking away, you remain. That decision to remain is transformative, because each time you stay present through challenge, you teach your mind that struggle is not a signal to stop. It is a sign that growth is taking place. Over time, frustration loses its power to intimidate you. It becomes familiar territory, something you know how to move through, rather than something that forces you to retreat. 3 focused hours also sharpen your clarity. When you give sustained attention to a skill or a goal, you begin to see patterns. You notice improvement. You recognize your strengths and understand your weaknesses without fear. This awareness is not discouraging, it is empowering. It replaces vague insecurity with specific understanding. And when you know exactly what you need to improve, self-doubt begins to shrink. There is something deeply transformative about uninterrupted effort. In a world filled with noise and constant distraction, focus itself becomes a rare discipline. Choosing to direct your energy intentionally builds mental strength. It trains your thoughts to remain steady. It strengthens your patience. It cultivates resilience. And resilience feeds self-belief, because you begin to trust your ability to handle difficulty without collapsing under it. As days turn into weeks, and weeks into months, those 3 hours compound. What once felt overwhelming begins to feel manageable. What once seemed impossible begins to feel achievable. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Your belief in yourself deepens quietly, rooted in the memory of all the hours you showed up when it would have been easier not to. Eventually, you walk differently. You speak with more certainty. You attempt challenges you once avoided. The fear may still exist, but it no longer controls you. It no longer defines you. Your self-belief stands on a foundation of disciplined action, and that foundation is strong. 3 focused hours a day may appear small within the span of 24, but they carry the power to reshape how you see yourself. And once your self-belief transforms, the direction of your life begins to transform with it. Skill development strengthens inner certainty in a way that nothing else can. Words of encouragement may lift you for a moment. Compliments may warm you briefly, but true certainty, the kind that steadies your hands and quiets your doubts, comes from knowing you have done the work. When you deliberately develop a skill, you are not just improving an ability, you are reinforcing your trust in yourself. There's something powerful about repetition. The first time you attempt something new, it feels unfamiliar, even intimidating. Your movements may be awkward, your thoughts may hesitate, but as you practice, as you refine, as you return to the task again and again, that awkwardness begins to fade. Familiarity replaces fear, competence replaces confusion, and in that transition, certainty begins to grow. Inner certainty is not loud, it does not need to boast, it is quiet and steady. It is the calm understanding that says, I have prepared for this. When you develop a skill, whether it is speaking, writing, leading, creating, or solving, you build a reservoir of experience. You remember the hours you invested. You remember the mistakes you corrected. You remember the progress you fought for. That memory becomes your anchor in moments of pressure. Skill development also teaches patience. Mastery is never immediate. It demands attention, discipline, and humility. It requires you to accept that growth comes step by step. In learning to endure the slow process of improvement, you strengthen more than your talent. You strengthen your character, and character is the backbone of certainty. When you know you can commit to something long enough to improve, you begin to believe you can overcome other challenges as well. There will be moments when doubt tries to reappear, a difficult task, a new level of competition, an unexpected setback, but developed skill provides reassurance. It reminds you that you have faced difficulty before and emerged stronger. It reminds you that you are capable of learning, adapting, and refining. This reminder quiets panic and replaces it with focus. As your skills grow, so does your independence. You rely less on approval and more on preparation. You seek less validation and more growth. You no longer need constant reassurance from others because your certainty is rooted in effort. You have seen yourself improve. You have witnessed your own progress. That lived experience becomes more convincing than any external praise. Over time, this inner certainty changes how you approach life. You take initiative more readily. You step into opportunities more confidently. You trust your ability to figure things out rather than shrinking from the unknown. Not because you believe you know everything, but because you believe in your capacity to learn. Skill development is more than acquiring competence. It is building a relationship with yourself based on trust. And when you trust yourself, when you know that with time and effort you can grow, your certainty becomes unshakable. Discipline today prevents doubt tomorrow. It is easy to misunderstand discipline as restriction, as something harsh or limiting. But in truth, discipline is protection. It shields your future from the regrets that grow in the absence of effort. When you choose discipline in the present moment, you are quietly removing the seeds of tomorrow's uncertainty. Doubt often creeps in when preparation is incomplete. It grows in the spaces where effort was postponed and opportunities were neglected. When you know you avoided the work, your mind reminds you. It whispers, "You could have done more. You should have tried harder." That whisper becomes hesitation. That hesitation becomes insecurity. But when you have given your time fully, when you have honored your commitment, even on difficult days, doubt finds very little room to survive. Discipline is not about intensity. It is about consistency. It is choosing to act even when motivation fades. It is returning to your task when distractions compete for your attention. It is finishing what you began when quitting would feel more comfortable. Each disciplined action may seem small in isolation, but together they create a powerful sense of completion. And completion builds peace. There is a particular calm that comes from knowing you did what you said you would do. It settles your thoughts. It strengthens your posture. It steadies your breathing. That calm is the absence of self-reproach. It is the reward of discipline. When tomorrow arrives with its challenges, you do not face it with panic. You face it with preparation. Discipline also strengthens your self-respect. Every time you follow through on your commitments, you reinforce the belief that your word matters, even when the promise is made only to yourself. This self-respect becomes a foundation. It keeps you upright in moments of pressure. It reminds you that you are capable of directing your own actions rather than being controlled by impulse. Without discipline, progress becomes unpredictable. Effort becomes occasional. Results become uncertain. And uncertainty feeds doubt. But with discipline, your growth becomes steady. You know that regardless of mood or circumstance, you will continue. That reliability creates confidence because you trust your own behavior. There will always be distractions. There will always be easier paths. But discipline is the quiet decision to stay aligned with your long-term vision. It is the understanding that comfort now may cost confidence later. When you consistently choose effort over ease, you build a history of integrity with yourself. And that history matters because when you stand in a moment that demands courage, You will not question your readiness. You will remember the days you showed up, tired but committed. You will remember the evenings you practiced instead of procrastinated. You will remember that you did not leave your future to chance. Discipline today is a gift to the person you will become tomorrow. It removes excuses before they form. It silences regret before it speaks. And in its place, it leaves clarity, strength, and the steady assurance that you are prepared. Repetition turns fear into familiarity. The first time you face something new, your heart may race and your thoughts may scatter. The unfamiliar has a way of magnifying itself, making simple tasks feel enormous. Fear often thrives not because something is impossible, but because it is unknown. The mind hesitates before what it has not yet experienced. But the moment you choose to repeat the action, to try again and then again, you begin to shrink the power that fear once held over you. When you return to the same challenge consistently, it stops feeling foreign. The edges soften. The uncertainty becomes clearer. What once felt overwhelming slowly becomes understandable. You start to recognize patterns. You anticipate obstacles. You develop responses. And in that process, the unknown transforms into something recognizable. Familiarity does not eliminate difficulty, but it removes the shock of it. Think about any skill you once struggled with: speaking in front of others, learning a new concept, starting a new responsibility. The first attempt likely felt uncomfortable, perhaps even intimidating. Yet with repetition, something shifted. Your body adjusted. Your mind adapted. Your confidence increased, not because the task changed, but because you did. Exposure reduced anxiety. Practice replaced panic with preparation. Repetition builds competence quietly. Each attempt refines your ability. Each mistake teaches adjustment. Each effort strengthens memory and sharpens instinct. Over time, you move from conscious struggle to natural execution. What once required intense concentration begins to flow more smoothly, and with that smoothness comes assurance. Fear often exaggerates consequences. It convinces you that failure will define you. But repetition challenges that belief. It shows you that mistakes are survivable, that improvement is possible, that growth is gradual. Every time you repeat an action and continue despite imperfection, you prove to yourself that fear is not final. It is simply a stage in the process of mastery. There is also a psychological strength that develops through repetition. When you willingly step back into something that once intimidated you, you train resilience. You signal to your mind that discomfort is temporary. You reinforce the understanding that ability is built, not bestowed. This understanding transforms your relationship with challenges. Instead of avoiding them, you approach them with curiosity and patience. Eventually, the thing that once caused hesitation becomes part of your routine. You no longer overthink it. You no longer question whether you belong in that space. The familiarity creates stability, and stability creates confidence, not loud confidence, but quiet certainty rooted in experience. Repetition does not promise perfection, it promises progress. It replaces fear with understanding and doubt with evidence. When you give yourself the grace to practice consistently, you allow transformation to happen naturally, and in that steady return, fear loses its authority, replaced by the calm assurance of familiarity earned through effort. The next 30 years depend on the habits you build now. Time is not shaped in grand dramatic moments alone. It is shaped in the quiet rhythm of daily choices. The life you will live decades from today is being formed in the ordinary routines you repeat without applause. Habits may feel small, almost insignificant, but they are powerful architects. They design your direction, they determine your discipline, they quietly decide whether your future will be built on strength or regret. Every habit is a vote for the person you are becoming. When you choose to focus instead of procrastinate, you cast a vote for responsibility. When you choose to learn instead of remain comfortable, you cast a vote for growth. When you choose to practice instead of postpone, you cast a vote for excellence. One vote may seem minor, but repeated daily, those votes accumulate. They shape your identity. Habits remove the need for constant motivation. Motivation rises and falls with emotion, but habits remain steady. They carry you forward on days when enthusiasm is low. They keep you moving when distractions are loud. Over time, what once required effort becomes automatic. Discipline becomes natural. Focus becomes familiar. And consistency becomes part of who you are, not something you struggle to maintain. The power of habits lies in their compound effect. A single day of effort may not transform your life, but repeated over years, that same effort becomes extraordinary. Reading a little each day expands your knowledge beyond what you once imagined. Practicing regularly sharpens your abilities beyond what talent alone could achieve. Saving time, protecting focus, honoring commitments, these small actions accumulate into remarkable outcomes. There is also protection in strong habits. They guard you against impulsive decisions that could derail your progress. They reduce hesitation because you no longer debate whether to act. You simply follow the rhythm you have established. When habits align with your goals, they create stability, and stability creates confidence in your direction. Without intentional habits, time slips away unnoticed. Days blend into months, months blend into years, and suddenly, opportunities feel missed rather than created. But when you consciously build habits that serve your growth, time becomes an ally instead of an adversary. Each day contributes meaningfully to the larger vision of your life. The next 30 years will not be determined by a single breakthrough or one lucky opportunity. They will be shaped by the consistency of your actions, by the patterns you repeat, by the standards you uphold when no one is watching. Habits are quiet commitments that echo far into the future. When you look back decades from now, you will see that your success, your confidence, your stability were not accidents. They were the result of choices repeated faithfully, and those choices begin now in the simple, powerful habits you decide to build and protect each day. Consistency for 3 hours is more powerful than motivation for 3 minutes. Motivation is a spark. It is bright, emotional, and exciting, but it is brief. It rises quickly and fades just as fast. Consistency, on the other hand, is a steady flame. It does not rely on mood. It does not wait for perfect conditions. It shows up whether you feel inspired or not. Many people wait for motivation before they begin. They tell themselves they will start when they feel ready, energized, or confident. But feelings are unpredictable. Some days you wake up determined. Other days you wake up uncertain. If your progress depends on emotion, it will always be unstable. But when you commit to consistency, you remove emotion from the decision. You act because you decided to, not because you feel like it. 3 hours of steady focus accomplish more than 3 minutes of intense excitement. In 3 consistent hours, you can study deeply, practice intentionally, refine your mistakes, and strengthen your understanding. You can move beyond surface-level effort and enter meaningful growth. Real improvement requires time. It requires sustained attention. It requires patience long enough to push past the initial discomfort. Consistency builds rhythm. When you repeat focused effort daily, your mind begins to expect it. Your body adjusts. Your concentration strengthens. Tasks that once felt heavy become manageable because they are no longer unusual. They are part of your routine, and routine reduces resistance. Motivation often celebrates beginnings. It cheers at the start of a new goal, but consistency carries you through the middle, the part where progress feels slow and results are not yet visible. It keeps you steady when excitement fades. It reminds you that growth is not always dramatic. It is often gradual. There is also trust that develops through consistency. When you show up for yourself every day, you build reliability. You prove that you do not abandon your commitments when things feel difficult. That reliability strengthens your self-image. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, and that identity becomes powerful. 3 consistent hours may not feel extraordinary in a single day, but over weeks and months, they transform your capabilities. Skills sharpen, knowledge deepens, confidence strengthens, not because you felt inspired every day, but because you remained steady every day. Motivation may start the journey, but consistency sustains it. Motivation may excite you, but consistency empowers you. When you learn to value steady effort over fleeting emotion, you gain control over your progress. You are no longer waiting for the right feeling. You are creating the right results through disciplined action. And in that steady commitment, you discover something important. You do not need to feel motivated to move forward. You only need to remain consistent. 3 hours of commitment today can create a lifetime of confidence. It may sound simple, almost too simple, but the truth often is. Confidence is not born in a single victorious moment. It is cultivated in repeated acts of dedication. When you give 3 intentional hours to your growth today, you are not merely completing a task, you are shaping the way you will see yourself for years to come. In those 3 hours, you confront yourself, you face distractions and choose focus, you meet difficulty and choose persistence, you encounter imperfection and choose improvement. Each of these choices may seem small in isolation, but together they form a powerful narrative. They tell you again and again that you are capable of discipline. They remind you that you can stay committed even when comfort calls your name. Confidence grows from evidence. It grows from lived experience. When you consistently dedicate time to learning, practicing, and refining your craft, you collect proof of your capability. You remember the evenings you wanted to quit but continued. You remember the moments of confusion that eventually turned into clarity. Those memories become anchors in future challenges. They whisper reassurance when doubt tries to speak. 3 hours also create depth. Surface level effort rarely builds lasting belief, but when you invest sustained time, you move beyond familiarity into understanding. You sharpen your skills, you strengthen your thinking, you develop patience, and depth produces assurance. It is difficult to doubt yourself when you know you have done the work thoroughly. Over weeks and months, those hours accumulate quietly. What felt challenging becomes natural. What once required courage becomes routine. You begin to notice that you hesitate less. You volunteer more readily. You approach opportunities with steadier hands. Not because fear has vanished entirely, but because preparation has grown stronger than fear. A lifetime of confidence does not mean a lifetime without challenges. It means a lifetime equipped to face them. When commitment becomes a habit, you carry with you the knowledge that you can grow through effort. That understanding changes everything. It shifts your mindset from avoidance to action, from uncertainty to initiative. There will be days when 3 hours feel demanding, days when progress seems invisible, but those are often the days that matter most, because commitment is most powerful when it is chosen despite difficulty. Each time you honor your promise to yourself, you reinforce your integrity. And integrity strengthens confidence at its core. Years from now, you may not remember every single session of focused work, but you will live with the results of them. You will stand in rooms you once thought were beyond you. You will handle responsibilities you once doubted you could manage. And in those moments, your confidence will not feel borrowed or fragile. It will feel earned. 3 hours today may appear small against the vastness of a lifetime, yet within those hours lies the power to reshape how you see yourself. And how you see yourself ultimately shapes how you live.